Today we are joined by special guest Todd Grima for SAMP Community Week. All right, Todd. Todd Grima grew up in a little island town us Melbourne folk called Tasmania. Representing Tasmania at state level in AFL, is quickly brought across the Tasman to join the legendary Geelong Football Club. Todd knows what it takes to be at the top of his field, and that is sacrifice, which is why he's had it written permanently in ink on his body. After tasting success in the 2007 VFL Premiership side for arguably the best ever reserves grand final team Geelong has ever seen, Todd tried his luck at a little-known Australian reality TV show, The Great Adventure. Unfortunately, Todd only lasted 5 weeks and the show only lasted 9. So then he quickly turned his undivided attention to property, his real passion besides footy. Fast creating his way in the commercial and industrial sector with CBRE in Adelaide, was cutting his teeth in the south, and then Todd was quickly moved through the ranks at the largest commercial real estate services company in the world, none other than CBRE. Collecting awards along the way and joining million-dollar clubs in his travels. Todd now sits as a director for the Asia Pacific, focusing on where his passion lie in industrial and logistics. Last year, Todd was awarded the CBR Leadership Award as market leader and the REIV's Commercial Salesperson of the Year Award. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only superstar, Mr. Todd Grima.
Thanks for that, mate. That was a very kind intro. Had a few memories brought back there, and it's good to be here chatting with you.
Mate, thanks for joining us for and having a chat for SAMP Community Week. I guess right off the bat, it's the topic that we can't avoid at the moment. How's life changed for you at CBRE in the industrial sector, and how are you managing a COVID way of life and working?
Yeah, mate, it's certainly been a huge change to to our typical work week or work day, and sort of just thinking before the call, it's going back as long as end of February, start of March, when this really started to take effect, and it's certainly had a huge impact on every single person. It certainly has really turned our worlds upside down. So, fortunately for myself and my direct team and in the industrial sector has remained really strong on the back of e-commerce growth. Online sales has been relied on more than ever, and we've seen a new demographic of purchaser with the likes of the older generation that would have never been started using that space, have been forced to do so with buying groceries and the like online. But the biggest challenge I think for everyone is staying focused and staying motivated. You're spending so much time being chained to the desk, and I think that for a lot of people, it's how they keep focused and not drift off. And I think there's a few key things that I think that I do that I think people would implement to help with that.
Okay.
One of them is from a social media point of view. I think you stop to check Facebook or Instagram or something like that, the amount of time it takes you to then refocus on the tasks that you're working on, you don't realise how long that actually is before you're back into what you're doing. And the other thing is regular breaks. So many people are just spending huge periods of time at their desk. For me, I generally have 6 breaks during the day, so I'll do 3 physical and 3 food. So physical activity can be as simple as just a short walk, like a body weight circuit, getting up and doing a few lunges, a few push-ups, a few sit-ups. What that does is it gets your blood pumping, get your heart going, and instead of drinking 10 coffees, which you sometimes feel, because you feel a lot more tired when you're doing a normal day, you'll find yourself really lethargic, and that's because you're sitting there and you're not active. So again, just a little bit of every couple of hours, just get up and do something, move around, and then when you come back to the desk, it helps you refocus. My average day is probably about 12 hours. So I spread those lunch breaks and those exercise breaks across that day. So when I'm coming back, that I'm focused. Because what you'll find if you don't do that, you'll spend long periods of time where you're just drifting off the ferries and your productivity really drops.
Sure, yeah. Well, that's a good message. Get off social media, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, yeah, at least it's your job. Unless you're a social media influencer, that doesn't work. But for a typical person, it just can absorb so much of your time and energy, and it really does affect your productivity. So again, check it when you wake up in the morning. Check it, once you close the laptop, spend some time on it at night. But every 10 minutes, you'll find yourself far more productive.
That's great advice. Nice, thanks, Todd. All right, can you give our community a little bit of an insight into the day-to-day life as being Director of Industrial Logistics for CBRE?
Yeah, mate, so just following on from, my breakdown of and putting my day into intervals, really my typical day actually varies quite a lot, depending on what meetings I have scheduled. But for me, my focus through all of COVID has been to still have that face-to-face interaction. So I've always been one that operates on the basis of getting to know someone personally, going, having a coffee, having a beer, really getting to know someone. And you can't get to know someone or build rapport like you can when you're looking at someone in the eyes and talking to them. So while we can't physically have that face-to-face interaction, we can still do it via portals like Zoom or Google Meets, and that's a huge part of business for us in today's generation and will be for years to come. So I'm really focused on trying to do 3 to 4 Zoom meetings per day with key clients or pitching for new business or trying to close out deals, and being able to see someone's reaction to what you're saying is crucial. So again, whatever industry you're in, if you want to build rapport, build relationships, help with closing new business or closing deals out or winning new business, try and do as much face-to-face meetings as you can. I just can't stress that enough. And the other thing would be is over communicating. So you can't do 100 Zoom calls a day, but over communicating with my clients at the moment is crucial. So whether that's via a text message, phone call, emails, whatever it is just touching base with them, checking in to make sure they're going okay, and where you can help. When markets get tough and things get tough, people look to the professionals, like us, to guide them and help them through these times. So it's just, you might not have a reason to call someone, but just pick up the phone and say, "G'day, how's it going? How's the family? Is there anything I can do to help?" And you'll be surprised how much you can generate from those conversations. So, my average call pre-COVID was 5 minutes. So I'm always about productivity and getting through my day, getting as much done in my day as possible. Now my average call is probably 20 minutes now, just because I'm spending more time on the phone, providing more time and more guidance. People that are looking for it now, more than ever.
So you almost turned into a bit of a support worker or a counsellor for your clients as well.
100%, yeah. And while, it can be frustrating at times because you're just absorbing so much of your day and maybe it's affecting your productivity, I guarantee you when we come out of this, those people will remember that, and you build you're forging even stronger relationships than you already did, or you're building new relationships. And I still remember I started my career back in Adelaide in 2008, March of 2008, and it was just after the GFC hit. Just before the GFC hit, and within a few months of me starting my career, 30% of the workforce at CBRE had left, and it was really tough times there for 2, 3, 4 years leading that, and I built really strong relationships with groups because you're there for them to help them when they needed it the most. That I've still got to today. So same rule applies now.
Yeah, fantastic. That's some more great advice. Okay, so you've achieved so much in your short career. You have a gorgeous wife. You've won a VFL flag. But is there one achievement in your business acumen that you cherish most above all?
Well, there's not really one that stands out. There's been a lot of good things along the way. In my 12 years at CBRE, the most rewarding thing for me is just seeing the growth and success of our industrial business. When I relocated to Victoria, it would have been 8 years ago now, after starting my career in Adelaide, we were an office of industrial business of 8 to 10, and we're circa 50 operators now, and the group really understands each other. We've built a really great culture and camaraderie together, and that's driving unbelievable results for us and a dominant market share. And then once you've built something like that, and you've got guys that have been together now for 5-10 years, you have the financial benefit that comes from that. And real estate's one of those ones where it can be quite a selfish game. But I think that the best teams that can work together and share information ultimately have the most success for the longest period of time. So I think I've been able to ride a really big wave of a great team of guys and girls that has sort of resulted in, being in the position that we are today with a really dominant market share and good financial success.
Yeah, I think it's a common theme amongst the elite leaders in their field, the selflessness as a key trait, and it's not so much about the personal rewards and accolades, but more about the overall success of a team.
Exactly, and one of my biggest clients always says there's no point having you being the number one by a mile and everyone else is down on the ground doing nothing. You enjoy it more when you have people that are succeeding around you as well, so you can enjoy it together. So I think it's one thing I've really enjoyed across my last 12 years at CBRE.
Fantastic. So I guess it's hard for there not to be negativity around the industry at the moment, and there's a lot of doom and gloom reporting in the media and a lot of speculation from so-called experts. Property values being slashed, offices empty and may never return back to their previous usage. What are your thoughts around this? What trends are you noticing? What can you tell us that may not be reported in the mainstream media?
Yeah, mate, it's certainly a huge talking point. And I think we're going through a massive transition phase. Look, I personally don't think office will ever return to the way it was. Sort of COVID has forced businesses to adapt, set up home offices. For a number of groups I've spoken with, they've been shocked with the productivity of their staff. I think there was a few doubters out there when they were forced to send their workforce home that they were going to be goofing off and the productivity wouldn't be there. But I think most people have been shocked by the way it's worked, and I think that it works really well for a lot of people. Some it doesn't, depending on your situation at home. Depending on whether you've got your own personal space, whether you've got kids, whether you've got pets, and all that sort of stuff. But I think people have enjoyed the freedom of working from home and having a bit more of a flexible work day. And I think that going forward, the group to their employer that they can work from home successfully will probably get the benefit of having flexible arrangements moving forward. We've seen, I've personally seen a huge increase in requirements for data centre groups who are looking to buy land, the additional storage requirements that's going to be driven by the remote working environment. And it's certainly going to be an interesting period for office. No doubt retail is going through huge changes. It already was going through massive changes with the growth of online sales and e-commerce. This has amplified that considerably. We can't go anywhere. We can't go to the shops, so we've been forced to shop online. So again, I think retail has got a really rocky road ahead. It's going to be an interesting period. I reckon over the next 5 years, it's going to be interesting to watch how that does affect that market. I think retail is still going to be the hardest hit. I think there will always be a market for shopping centres that can offer, an all-round experience with, movie theatres and bowling alleys and good food. So it sort of becomes more of an experience than going to a strip retail shop like a bulky goods type centre. So look, it's going to be a really, really tough period for office and retail. I think there might be a bit of resurgence of suburban office. I think what this has shown is that we don't have to have a head office in the CBD. I think that there'll be potentially more suburban offices set up, and I think inner fringe areas will benefit from that. I think that might be a trend we start to see. From an industrial point of view, we're really insulated due to the growth of obviously of online and e-commerce. We represent the likes of Amazon, Vita Excel, New Aim, and they're some of the largest e-com businesses in the market, and their growth through COVID has been astounding. They've all had record-breaking years. Another example is Catch of the Day, who we're all very familiar with. They're a large e-commerce business. They recently sold to Wesfarmers. And in the last 12 months, their growth has been north of 400%. So this is just, the growth of these business, that directly relates to their warehousing and storage requirements as well. So as their sales grow, they need to hold more inventory. So they're needing more and more warehousing space. So the absorption of warehouse space on the back of the growth of these e-com businesses has been huge. An example of that is Amazon recently leased a 200,000 square metre distribution centre in Sydney, which is being developed by Goodman. So it's just crazy what's happening from an e-commerce perspective.
So while retail may be suffering in the short-term future, there's a lot of growth happening in the industrial space.
Yeah, correct, mate. And look, retailers are effectively driving this through their online portals. So when we're chatting to big retailers that have warehousing requirements, they're saying that their focus is going all to online. Look, I still think there's always going to be, we're always going to want to go in and try something on, see it, touch it, feel it. But however, the way that the experience of online is just getting better and better with free returns and the time of delivery. That's a big focus for a lot of these groups, is how they can reduce delivery times. For example, in the US, Amazon Prime is delivery within 2 hours of making an order, and there's thousands of products. It's probably never going to get to that stage in Australia, but it's certainly a big focus on reducing those times. So I think that there's always going to be a demand for people to want to touch and feel, but it's getting less and less. And I think that retail's going to suffer badly, in my opinion, over the next period of time as this continues.
You touched on the lack of requirement for having a head office in the CBD. Have you heard much talk around the postcode 3000 initiative or reconverting office buildings into residential and changing usage, perhaps like what they did in the early 90s with the old 1920s and 30s buildings and reconverted the old offices into apartments? Is there any talk of that yet? Or
yeah, look, I think it may be a little too early. Look, there's certainly a lot of uncertainty, and it's going to be a tough period for CBD office. Look, I think that it's probably going to be a time will tell where they'll monitor the market, they'll monitor the office, they'll monitor how many people are returning to the workforce in the CBD over the next 12, 18, 24 months. And I think that'll dictate what happens. I don't think people will be necessarily racing out to convert their office tower to a residential tower. But I certainly think that it'll be on the agenda if we don't see significant swing back to office return to the way it was. So it's going to be an interesting period, and I think time will tell, but I think it's certainly a chance of that happening.
Great. So I guess that's some really good insight for us in the current market. If I was an investor looking to invest in the commercial space, where would you be guiding me?
Well, mate, I'm very micro industrial. It's my baby. It has been for the last 12 years. So for me, it'd be going heavy into industrial, and it's already happening. We're seeing the likes of GPT and Charter Hall and those bigger REITs trading in their shopping centres and retail and going heavy into industrial. And again, purely on the back of the growth for e-commerce. There was recently an article released by Prologis, which is one of the largest industrial landlords in the world, and they were saying that they forecast that warehousing requirements globally will double in the next 10 years. So what we're currently storing now, the requirement for storage will double in the next 10 years. So I think that for me, and living and breathing it every day, it's really clear to me that industrial is only going to go from strength to strength. And to put it in perspective, only about 10% of all goods purchased in Australia currently are online. And our generation, you would think that, I know me personally, and certainly my wife, she's very good at shopping online. I feel like it'd be north of 50%. But when you think about it, there's currently only 10%, and that's across everything, including groceries, where typically people want to go and touch and feel the fruit and look at the veggies before they buy them. But when you're seeing only 10% of goods sold online, and where that's going to go in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it's really a no-brainer for me on that.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I guess we'll finish with one final question, maybe more on a personal level. What is on the horizon personally for Mr. $2 Million Club himself? Business, life, goals, dreams over the next, 5, 10 years?
Yeah, so business-wise, it's just to have consistency and constantly performing year in, year out, which is something I've really prided myself on. I've had 10 years of year-on-year fee growth, so a decade now of year-on-year fee growth in agencies, where generally speaking you can have good and bad years depending on the market. So that's something I've really prided myself on, to have that consistency to turn up and do it year in, year out. And for me, is this year's going to be more challenging than ever than to beat my 2019 numbers with what's happening in the market. But for me, that's a huge goal and a huge target. So I'm more focused now than I've ever been, and I understand I've got to work now twice as hard as I did last year to make the same amount of money. So certainly from a business perspective, it's just cracking in as hard as I can, and trying to make the most of every day and every minute with my productivity. And personally is starting a family. So my beautiful wife, you mentioned earlier, she's pregnant, so we've got one on the way.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. So, hopefully a couple more to follow that. So, growing a family is something I've always wanted to do, and finally at a stage in my life where I'm in a position where it's the right time to do so. And, other than that goal, like a goal or a dream I've been working to, is just to be able to retire at a young age where I'm, still young enough to spend time with your kids, your family and your friends, and, not be working the 9-to-5 grind forever. So that's really it.
Awesome. Well, I'm very grateful for you taking the time out of your busy schedule today to share your story with the SAMP community for Community Week. And wish you all the success in the rest of the year and onwards.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
No worries. Take care.